And as South Africans head to the polls on May 7th, the party of President Zuma, the African National Congress, is expected to remain the party in power. But there are many people who believe that the party has not done enough toward resolving the nation's major issues. VOA's Paul Ndio takes a closer look.
April 27th marked the 20th anniversary of South Africa's first multiracial elections, which ended 3 centuries of white domination and 46 years of formalized oppression of black majority under the apartheid system. Here in the United States, civil rights organizations and activists alike stood in solidarity with the people of South Africa and the ruling African National Congress, which spearheaded the fight against apartheid and has remained in power since 1994. Nicole Lee is the president of Trans-Africa, the organization that led the Free South Africa movement in the U.S. She says the country has not changed much.
I think apartheid in and of itself was an evil that was built upon not only an ideology, but built upon structures.
Critics of the government say that unemployment in South Africa is very high, at around 25%, and labor unrest frequently halts production in the mining and auto sectors. The violence at the Americana Platinum plant in 2012 still weighs heavily on the minds of many citizens. Police killed 34 miners who were striking for better wages. Graphic images of bullet-riddled bodies of the workers were reminiscent of the country's racial past, and Lee says the nation still has a long way to go.
I think that the situation in South Africa still remains economically grave for many, many South Africans, especially black South Africans. The lack of jobs, the lack of adequate health care, the lack of education, that still is a major, major factor.
Despite the significant strides made in the last couple of years in the areas of civil society, women organizations, and community organizations, Nicole Lee explains that more needs to be done.
South Africa still has a long way to go. A lot of changes need to be made.
During the apartheid struggle, many Americans kept the movement alive, particularly members of the African American community. Cicely Counts was one of the protesters.
In 1984, when the apartheid regime cracked down once again, and it was broadcast on television, we just had to channel that energy in protest. There were sit-ins, there were arrests. It wasn't just demonstrations. The demonstrations had been going on for some time. What was new was the civil disobedience.
The fight to end apartheid was a global fight that had roots here in the United States. Key players in the anti-apartheid movement, including people like Randall Robinson, founder and former president of Trans-Africa Forum, advocates who later became members of Congress like Maxine Walters, and others led protests and called for the U.S. sanctions against South Africa.
The fact that apartheid ended with the help of the international community does give us some hope that when people come together, they can force change.
The most prominent person of the apartheid era was the late Nelson Mandela. The anti-apartheid hero died last December at the age of 95. But his legacy to South Africans and the world was his unwavering courage, forgiveness and hope that touched and inspired people around the world. He showed that the dream of a just society is possible and challenged future generations to lead the way towards it. Paul Ndio, VOA News.